The Demon Within, Chapter 9. Starine, wake up, I say, unable to stop the tears running down my face. All I could see was when I held her after the attack with Jason and Devon. There was dust, dirt, and soot lacing every inch of her. Please, sis. I could still feel her breathing as I held her tight. Starine, Emma! Winter yells as he comes racing towards us, quickly changing into his wolf form to run faster over here. Once Ira shook off her thoughts, she quickly raced over to us as well, knowing we had taken most of the attack. Winter's eyes stared at me, desperate for good news, and it made me smile seeing how much he cared. She's just unconscious. Okay, she's okay. Winter sighed softly, seeming to say his thoughts out loud to reassure himself. I'm sure she would have been much more hurt if you didn't catch her. Are you all right? I nodded and glanced at Ira, who started searching her pockets, smiling triumphantly when she pulled out a sticky note. I still don't know much about your guys' magic, but Ira gently gave the note to me. I hope this helps. I smiled wide at her as I noticed the drawing of a healing spell on the paper. We should really get this one memorized, I mumbled, creating the runes with my magic and healing star. When do you think she'll wake up? Winter said softly, sitting beside me. After using that much magic? Probably a while. Last time she did that, she was out cold for the rest of the night. Last time? Winter's ears perked up, concern laced in his words. Before I was killed, by Ava, that is. I groaned, knowing that this is definitely something only I would be able to say, after I died the first time. She was turning out in the field of her aunt's place in the middle of the night. I came out to see a scene much like when she was in the air. I shuddered and looked down at her. She almost gained full control of it back then, until I opened my stupid mouth and spooked her. I chuckled, trying to make light of the situation. Who would have known that gravel and fresh burns hurt so much? Oh, geez, Ira said, looking at me sympathetically. I shrug and smile. And you're okay? From the fight, that is? Yeah, are you? She looks over herself and nods. That's good. I look over at Winter, who didn't take his eyes off Star. Winter. He flinches and looks up at me. She's gonna be okay. He sighs and turns back into his human form, nodding slowly. I look back at him as he looked back at Star. I could still see so much worry in his eyes. His ears were back, his tail tucked beside him. Can you hold her? My legs are going numb. I say, making a fake excuse knowing it'd help him feel better. His ears perked up quickly as he looks between me and her. Yeah, sure. He reaches his arms out for her. He fumbled slightly, trying not to bend her wings in any wrong way, before he settled with his hands holding her softly. I've got you, he mumbled softly. Star seemed to curl up against him in his lap as he held her, tears coming to his eyes. Both Ira and I sat there with our mouths open slightly, surprised to see tears. You really scared me there. He brought her close to his chest, his tail curling over them both. I smiled and stand up, giving him a bit more space, motioning Ira to follow me. We stand on the edge of a smoke crater, burn marks against the grass where Star's fire had been thrown. This is, gonna raise questions, I mumble. Wait, I have an idea, Ira said, running off to the playground. I chuckle as I watch her sprint, falling slightly as her feet hit the sand, only for her to look around through the sand. I take in a breath of fresh air. The worry about Curlia is gone now, but I guess I'll have to prepare for something a lot worse if Curlia's right. And what did she even mean by she'll see me soon? I shake my head and look at the school in the distance. But I guess I should focus on one thing at a time. With finals coming up, it seems like a pretty good place to start. These few months have passed so quickly. I've missed so much school, and I wouldn't be surprised if I were held back. I smile at Ira as she trips again, quickly sprinting around the playground, trying to find something. I don't think I'll fail, but I doubt I'm going to get a high mark, which I guess is okay. I'll still be able to graduate with them if I pass this. That was more than enough reason to try my hardest to pass these tests. Okay, I got it! Ira yelled, running over to me again, a big grin on her face and a handful of random rocks. I laugh softly as I take one. Do you think this will work? I say, looking at the rock in my hand. Do you think I need bigger rocks? She looks so genuine as she looked through the handful that she had. I look between her and the crater. Nah, I think it's good enough. I shake my head, chuckling softly as I place the rock in the middle. Oh, I wanted to put this one here. I glare at her playfully as she holds out another rock. This one looks better, though, I say, lifting mine back up. It's got little divots in it, too. She frowns and looks at her hand, searching for a pebble. What are you— Hey, ow! I glare at her as a pebble bounces off my nose, one she had flicked at me, already having another one ready. Yeah, cut that out! Another one bounces off my hand as I block it from hitting my face. I laugh as I pick one up from the ground, tossing it in the air while glaring at her. Uh-oh, she said, smiling at me. Uh-oh is right, you big dork. Come here. I yell, chasing after her as she starts to sprint away, tossing the rest of the rocks back at the crater and laughing. We went back and forth a bit, playing with the pebble, tossing it at each other, and then chasing one another around the playground, occasionally stopping to let her catch her breath. Although, every time she said she was fine, rolled her eyes at me and started chasing me again. It was a little odd not seeing her take breaks, even 10 minutes into running around, and she hadn't stopped to really catch her breath. Okay, I need a break this time, I say, out of breath. Did all that fighting get to you already? I roll my eyes at her as we start walking towards Winter again. Yeah, because you kept throwing yourself at a literal demon, a hellborn! She pushes my shoulder and sticks her tongue out at me. I had to do something to protect you guys. I wasn't going to sit around and be useless. Hush, Winter said quickly as we got closer. I flinch and walk a little bit faster over to them. Star was still curled up slightly to his chest, yet her eyes were shut tight, her face twitching slightly. Ugh, Star grumbled as she shifted in his arms. I smile and Ira quickly sits down beside Winter. I follow suit calmly. Morning, sis. You doing okay? She opens her eyes, looking up, expecting to see my face, but of course she is met with Winter's instead. Her face turns red as she looks over at me quickly. I giggle as she shakes her head, shifting to move her hands over her face. Hey. Winter's voice was soft as he spoke. If I ask the question, will you answer it? Are you okay? I held back a laugh as I saw Star's ears turning red as she continued to hide her face with her hands. Yeah, just, the sun is very bright, she said, stumbling over her words. And your hands? Are they okay? Winter's voice was soft, but I could just barely see a smile on his face as Star uncovers her face to look at her hands confused. Yeah? Why wouldn't they be? She looks past her hands and at him, her face still just as red as before, her eyes wide as she stares into his. No reason, but I got you to move your hands out of the way. Winter chuckled and planted a small kiss on her forehead. Her eyes seemed to sparkle as she stares at him. I glanced at Ira, who had her mouth wide open, staring at Winter, whose face was a little red, his eyes holding a genuine smile as he chuckled again at Star. Her starstruck expression as her face slowly got redder. Ah, Ira! Star and Winter yell, their faces both turning bright red before Star scrambles out of Winter's arms, turning into her human form. Ira and I laugh as Star turns away from the group to hide her face. God, you guys kill the mood so quickly, Winter says, standing up with his casual, stubborn front, yet a goofy smile still plastered on his face. We all paused, looking at Star, who went silent, looking up at the sky. I felt my smile fade as I walk up to her, putting my hand on her shoulder softly, taken back a little when I see her right eye black as she looks at me. She then looks past me at the craters in the ground caused by her fire. Did I? No, I say softly, smiling at her. Winter did, with the spell. You didn't hurt her at all, which she seemed pretty angry about. Star chuckles, a sigh of relief coming from her as she looks at the group, her eyes going back to normal before she turns. I snicker as I turn as well, looking at Winter as he glares at Ira. Ira, who is still giggling to herself, starting up again just as she noticed his red face. God, you are such a pain, Winter said stubbornly, turning his back to her and smiling at us. Star shook her head and walked up to Ira, patting her on the shoulder 2 times. I smiled and shook my head, getting used to it. It was her little hint towards a game of tag. I'd be careful, Star. Ira's full of energy right now, it seems. We already chased each other around and she's still ready to go. Star smiled playfully and glared at Ira. Then I guess I'll have a pretty big chance at winning. Ira glares at Star, matching her smile. Tag, you're it, she said before running off. Ira quickly chased after her, laughing as they raced towards the playground. I sighed, sitting beside Winter, looking at him confused as he had a serious expression on his face. You okay? I say, nudging him. He narrows his gaze, following Ira, studying her. Earth to Winter, what's going on? I'm just concerned Ira accidentally messed with the spell. Winter looked back towards our house, and it was obvious he wanted to get his books to see if there was anything on this. She seems fine. I chuckle as she jumps on something to dodge Star after tagging her. Better than fine, and that's what has me worried. I felt a chill run up my spine as I think the same. You don't think... I'm not sure. There was no pain for her, it seems. I shudder thinking back to when Star was turned into a half-blood. The way she cried for hours, the screaming. I shake my head and look at him. That healing part of the spell, maybe? You might be right. He runs his hand through his hair. Thank God for that, if that's the case. I look at him confused. That she didn't feel any pain. Usually that magic has to go somewhere after killing someone like that. Most commonly, it goes back to the wielder, but I didn't feel any power difference, so I thought that might have been a lie. You know what? No, I'm not going to stand here and keep wondering. Hey, Ira! I yell, getting both Star and Ira's attention. Come here! What are you going to do? Winter looked at me with suspicion. Something that'll tell us if she's a demon or not. I pause as they run over here, stopping just in front of us. Listen, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, and Star will heal you. What? Star said quickly, matching the concern on Winter's face. I shake my head and hold out my hand to grab Ira's. I look at her with calm eyes, trying not to show any form of anger or hate. I didn't want her to be scared. I didn't really want to hurt her, but we needed to know. She hesitantly put her hand in mine, and I bring my other hand up, forming a small fireball. Either way, this is going to sting. Are you okay with that? I say as I make sure to look into her eyes. This is stupid. There's other ways to find out. Winter grumbled, looking at Ira. Star looked at me with an understanding yet concerned look. And after some hesitance, Ira nods slowly. I bring the fire close to her arm, burning her slightly, cringing as she tugs her arm away in pain, covering the burn with her other hand. Star quickly takes a step towards Ira, stopping when I put my hand in front of her and looking at Ira. All of our eyes narrow on her as she slowly uncovers her arm. The redness wasn't there anymore, and all of us gasped slightly. Ira looked at me, dumbfounded, and put her arm out towards me again. Do it again! Maybe I wasn't burnt enough. Ira! Star yells, quickly hushed by Winter, who was also just as invested in knowing the truth. I brought the flame up to her again, letting it burn her for as long as she would let it. Eventually, after about 4 seconds, she pulled her arm away, not covering it this time just to see it heal. She looked back over at all of us, her eyes wide, a big smile lighting up on her face. Oh God, Star said quietly. Am I? Please tell me! Ira seemed to bounce on her feet as she looked between us all. We all settled for looking at Winter, who we assumed knew the most. I mean, maybe? It could be just a short flow of magic from the spell, or I could be a demon too! She yelled, jumping around. I shake my head as she jumps around us. Teach me! Train me on how to be a demon too! She jumped in front of me, grabbing my hands. Teach me how to fly! How to make fire! Oh, does this mean I won't need salt to perform spells? I laugh and look at her and then back at Winter. If this stays, and if it's confirmed better, then yes. Ira squeals and hugs Winter, smiling wide. Thank you! Hey, I didn't do it on purpose. You were the one who messed with the spell, Winter said, pushing her away from him. Listen really closely. If you are a demon, you can't just start using your fire all willy-nilly. You have to be trained to control it. Trained to make it harmless when you want it to be, and flying isn't as easy as you think. Star said she got it on the first try! Star blushes softly and smiles. Well, I always watch Emma fly. I've technically been taught my whole life. Ira frowns slightly. But I think she's a great teacher nonetheless, so I'm sure you'll learn fast. Yippee! Ira said, going back to bouncing around us. I can help but smile at how happy she was to be one of us. I feared she would hate it. Or hate us. My negative thoughts were interrupted by the sound of my stomach growling. I felt heat rise to my face as everyone stopped and looked at me. All you had today was that Pop-Tart on the way to Ira's, Star mumbled softly. I rolled my eyes and waved my hand dismissively. Nah, I'm fine. I'll just head home and cook myself some instant noodles. No, let's go celebrate! Ira said, smiling wide. Let's go get pizza! You guys can show me that place you were talking about! That doesn't sound like a bad idea, Winter said calmly, clearing his throat to try and cover up his stomach growling as well. We all laughed softly as we heard anyway. Who's paying? I think I have some of my allowance left. It'll probably cover most of it, I say, looking back at the house. Are we all flying over or taking a bus, though? We all glance at Ira, who has a big smile on her face. Flying it is. I shake my head and start walking towards the house. Just to be clear, you won't be flying yet, Star said sternly, following me and glaring at Ira. I'll carry you. Deal, she said, running up to us. Winter chuckled, shaking his head as he followed along. I walk in the front doors to see our mom doing laundry in the living room, a soft smile on her face as she hummed. Welcome home, she said, turning around, her eyes widening as she stared at me. Oh, you're home, she said, running towards me. I groaned as she hugs me tightly, a weak smile on my face as I wrap my arms around her. Hey, Mom, I say softly. I look past her at the laundry, sighing at how normal everything seemed here. Oh, Emma, what's happened to you? She says, pushing herself back slightly and looking at me. You're so pale, and are those new scars on your wings? What happened to you while you were gone? You know what? No, I shouldn't have trusted my sister that much. Who knows what attacked you out on her farm? Mom, I say, my voice cracking slightly. Please don't blame Auntie. She's the one who saved me. She just stares at me, her eyes looking at me with such concern. From what? I cringe as she looks at me, then at all of us. I slowly turn towards the others, putting on the weakest fake smile I could muster. You guys should wait outside. I'll meet you there if you want. We can wait outside for now. Come on, we have some chalk, Star said, smiling and leading Winter and Ira outside. Chalk is stupid, Winter mumbled before the door closed gently behind them. I look back at Mom and sigh. There was an odd silence between us as we stood there. She was patiently waiting, anxious and nervous, yet patient. And I was shaking, unsure of where to start before she smiled at me and took a few steps back, walking towards the living room. Come sit, she said, moving the laundry off the couch. Just tell me when you're ready. I stand there at the door, glancing behind me, uncertain. I wanted to go and celebrate being free of Curlia, but leaving her just as confused and even more concerned made me feel bad. I know I said I didn't want to push you, and that still holds true, but you have me worried, Emma. And if it is all still too much, then you're free to go, but you have me worried. I don't know where to start. I don't know how much I can say for your sake. She looks at me, worry only growing in her eyes as I rub the back of my neck. I guess you don't really know anything since the incident with Clinton and Carl. I don't mean to be rude, but I don't even know much of that. When Star came home with you in her arms, all I was told was that a bully attacked you. I groan and let my feet carry me to the couch. I guess I can start there. I sit beside her, trying to run through the painful memories in my head. So, apparently Clinton had some issues going on. His brother is a demon? I mumble, not understanding much of it myself. And apparently he's the reason Clinton was adopted, so... Anyway, he saw him and me attack to protect himself and Carl. So, how are you two friends? I chuckle and pull my legs up onto the couch. They planned an ambush, one that failed miserably. Then Clinton saw that what he'd done to me, saw how I was different, and accepted that I wasn't his brother. Then from there they tried to fix their actions. It was painful to see them crawl back up from where they ended. I mean, slapping a well-loved person in the middle of the school field kind of sets you back in a lot of friend groups, apparently. I laughed softly and looked towards the door, glancing out the window to see Ira coloring with some chalk. Then, eventually, after Star and I warmed up to them, and most students stopped believing that we were crazy for doing so, I started to get treated better. Mom nods softly, slowly. Now what about that trip to our old town? I flinch and smile at her, forgetting that she knew almost the moment we got back. What happened then? Something seemed off afterwards. I sigh and look down at my feet. Well, Ava used to be one of our old friends. Eventually, I paused, not knowing how to explain it. She didn't like that I was a demon, and apparently in the end she was an angel, who may have known from the start that I was a demon. And guess who just so happened to not believe that all I wanted was to be good? Oh, hun. I waved my hand dismissively. Nah, what's worse than her hunting me down was the fact that through her religion she ended up getting 3? Yeah, I think Ira said 3. 3 dozen people on her side to either kill me or get rid of my demon form completely. And cue the situation we got put into, where the spell they had tried to perform went wrong and turned Star into a demon. Running home with her in my arms, terrified as she cried, now that is something I wish I could forget. I wince in pain, remembering how I broke through the back door. Oh, and I'm sorry for lying to you. She tilts her head slightly. When we ran home, that's when I broke the door. I was focused on getting Star away from Ava's minions. Oh, Emma, it's all right. We got it repaired, so it's fine. The landlord wasn't too worried. But please continue. Well, after that, we decided that it was a good idea to try and get as far as we could away from Ava. And fled to my sister's the first time. I nodded and continued. Yeah, I tried my best to teach Star as much as I could about being a demon. Winter actually used some foresight magic to try and figure out roughly when Ava would strike again. We didn't know how at first, but then I felt my breath get caught in my throat. There was pain as I looked at her, not wanting to tell her she was the reason they found us. But then Ava saw us flying outside one day, and we were kind of screwed from there. Mom looks at me, invested, her eyes wide, her body leant forward slightly. I smile at her, a pained smile knowing I'd have to explain that I was killed. Do you really want to hear the rest? It only gets so much worse from here. Only if you want to. I paused, feeling oddly satisfied so far, getting this off my chest just to one person. A small weight lifted off my shoulders. I nod, taking in a slow breath. Well, Ava managed to ambush us in the middle of the night, one night when Auntie had to work a night shift, and I cringe, false pain shooting through my wings and tail, reminding me that I still had them formed. And, well, she got a lot farther than Clinton and Carl did with their ambush. Her brows furrow in concern. I settled for the same way I showed Ira. I pulled down the collar of my shirt slightly to show the revival scar. They killed me and kidnapped Star. I watched as her eyes widened, a quiet gasp as she stared at the scar. I don't know how Star escaped, but the next thing I knew, I was being revived in the middle of the forest a few days later. Winter and Star helped each other to bring me back, and we headed back to the city the next day. The next day? Was there no issue after being revived? I shake my head with a small laugh. None that I cared about. We came back and went to school hoping to return to some normalcy for a few moments, just to have Ava cause even more problems. Although Ira and Star did a good job standing up to her and scaring her off away from school, when I was hiding like a child from her. Emma! I quickly chuckle, already prepared for the scolding. You were killed by her! It's not hiding like a child! You were scared! The fact you didn't run again amazes me. I wouldn't have stepped foot back in this city. I rolled my eyes. Well, if we didn't stop her, then I don't think we'd ever get this far into bringing peace between all divine beings. She pauses and sighs. Fair point. She mumbles, sitting back up comfortably. Anyway, she cornered us again, but I think that was my fault. I led us into a bad spot in the alleyways. I shiver remembering being cornered by her, the way she towered over us with her dark wings. Well, she ended up putting a spell on Clinton and Carl since day one that I refused to believe. Star thankfully saw through it, and I'm sure if she didn't, we would have killed them, too. Oh. I look at the ground, knowing she stuck onto the word, too. Yeah, but Even after sending her to hell, I went back that night and buried the feathers that stuck around. I even kept one of them. It glowed such a pretty golden color despite how black it was. I sighed and brought my knees to my chest. She may have killed me, but we used to be friends, and I'd like to think that maybe in some different universe or something, we would have stayed friends, or at least maybe have gone our separate ways. You're too kind, she said softly, putting her hand on my shoulder. I don't feel like it now. She looks at me empathetically. After that, there was a much bigger problem. Well, I guess she was always a problem, but she decided that she was going to break me down now. What? I shake my head and chuckle. Well, for a while I was possessed by another demon by the name of Krylia. Since I was a demon, it wasn't like any other possession. She slowly controlled my magic until it was hers, and then made it impossible to use any of it. I couldn't heal, I couldn't fly, I couldn't use my fire unless she wanted me to. I felt my jaw get tight. I can't blame her 100% for the actions that happened, but she caused thoughts that were only in the back of my mind previously to be so upfront that I acted on them without thinking. I hit Winter. I attacked Star. I stole Winter's notes. I shake my head, taking a quick and slow breath in and out. So that's why I ran away again. I studied spells relentlessly to try and figure out something to get rid of her, but I used the wrong one in the end, and, well, let's just say Hellborn are much better trained in combat than us. I looked at the ground, my mind almost going blank as I remembered my thoughts in those moments. How quickly I gave up. But, I say quickly, trying to throw myself out of those thoughts. Auntie saved me. I bite my tongue and look at the front door again. I came back last night to warn Star and Winter. What was the yelling about? Krylia got there almost right after I did. I run my hand through my hair. All that yelling was Star screaming at her after I ran and hid. Really? She's capable of that volume. I snicker and nod. Apparently. I pause again, not knowing what happened after the yelling. Well, I only then remember waking up scared for Ira's sake. I don't know what Krylia wanted with her, but it was something. Maybe she used the same sort of foresight magic Winter did and tried to stop it by getting Ira. I don't think we can change what we see in it, so I'd rather not really think about it. She looked at me calmly. I could see the pain in her eyes, the stress in her furrowed brow. I went out to protect Ira. Star and Winter followed, and then later, we fought her. I rest my head on my arms as I stretch them over my knees. We won, obviously, but Ira might be a demon now too. She seems happy about it, but I'm really worried she won't be for long. Being a demon is so difficult. And you're doing such a good job controlling it. I scoff at her and sit just a bit straighter. Glad you think so. But I start getting up slowly. We were just about to go out and celebrate the fact that we're all alive, so you don't mind, do you? No, dear, go ahead. She looked at me with such an odd, understanding gaze. Oh, and did you know Auntie is an angel? I spin my head around. She laughs softly and nods. She was born that way. Your grandma was one too. I pause and slowly smile. Just like me in a sense. She nodded softly. Just like you. Now go on, go celebrate. We've made them wait long enough. I nod quickly and run upstairs to grab my money, quickly coming back down and hugging Mom before I head back out the door. Emma. I pause and look at her with my hand just above the doorknob. Be safe. I nod, giving her a big, warm smile, and then head out the door. As I close the door behind me, I stare with wide eyes as I see all of them still covering our walkway with chalk. So I was drawing some anime while Ira and Winter drew the backgrounds. I chuckled as Winter looked up, his hands and knees covered in chalk, his tail just as colorful as it rested on the finished part of the sidewalk. Sorry for making all of you wait. Seems you had fun, though, I say, smirking at Winter. He glares at me, standing up and dusting himself off just to get more chalk all over him, his normal camo shorts now painted with colors of blues and pinks and everything in between. Star and Ira stand up as well, taking a moment to admire their work before facing me. Ready to go? They all nod, dusting themselves off more as I walk up to them. Winter and Star change into their demon forms. "Carry me!" Ira said, lifting her arms up and smiling wide. "Oh, wait, hold on," Winter says, quickly running inside. Running back out with his backpack in his hands. "If we want to start studying, then this should help," he says, flying into the air as Star grabs Ira. We all fly together in a row as we head downtown. As I flew above the town, Star, Winter, and Ira by my side, out in the open, it just felt so relieving. I felt my wings glide in the air as Ira's laughter filled the spaces between us. I felt the weight of the worry of this test this week, but I knew I had time for those. I knew now that I could do it. I could be in school without worrying about hurting anyone. All I had to do now was pass those tests. I look out in front of me, watching the cars drive around as we slowly fly past a tall building. I could feel the wind in my hair, and the honking of traffic filled my ears, drowned out by the wind. My mind was empty for now. Calm. It was really a moment to celebrate. "Oh, that was so fun! Can we do it again on the way back?" Ira says, jumping around us as Star puts her down on the sidewalk. "Sure," Star says, laughing softly. "Emma might have to carry you this time, though." Ira looked at me with her wide, happy eyes. I couldn't help but chuckle and nod. "Yeah, I'll carry you." I stretched out my wings before letting them rest behind me as we walked into the pizza place. As I turned my head around to look into the pizza place, I noticed 3 familiar faces at the counter. Mom, look, it's them again!" Jack said, running over to us. Winter walked in last, grumbling slightly now that he was stuck by the door. I laugh and take a few steps forward, shooing Jack away kindly so the others can get in. "Well, hello again. What a nice surprise," Ira said, crouching down beside Jack. I wave politely at the mother as she smiles at us. Jack stops just in front of Star and looks at Ira, confused. "Who's the 4th demon? There were only 3 before, the pureblood, the healer, and the wolf." I tilt my head a bit confused as we all look at him. "Who's the knight?" Ira's eyes light up as she looks at Winter for some sort of info. "What?" I mumbled, look at him. Just then his mother spins back around, realizing what he said. Hey, Jack, come on now, sweetie. We talked about this." "Mom, come on, they're demons too. I shouldn't have to hide it from them." His mom pauses and looks around the empty pizza place, just to sigh and wave her hand dismissively. "Yes!" Jack smiles at us and quickly turns into his own demon form. "This is how I knew. I know things. In the books they call me a mind reader." I couldn't help but notice Winter change into his half-wolf, half-human form, unaware of his tail wagging behind him. Jack's smile only grew as he said this. "Which book?" Winter said, unable to hide the happiness from his voice, his need for knowledge coming through just as strong. Mom, what's the book called at the library?" She looks at him confused and then shrugs her shoulders as she counts out some money. He frowns and looks back at Winter. It's in the library down the block, in the fantasy section, next to the cool dragon book," Andrew said, finally coming from beside his mother. "The one with the big cool dragons, even the fluffy ones." I laughed softly and crouched down to be eye to eye with Andra. "You still doing okay, kiddo?" I say softly, smiling at him. "You promise you weren't hurt at all?" He nods softly and runs up to me, hugging me. "Thank you for saving me." I stumble back a bit, using my tail to keep myself upright, patting Andra's head. "You're welcome, buddy." I glanced at Ira, who seemed to be shaking with excitement, patiently waiting for Jack and Winter to stop talking about the contents of the book. I clear my throat, getting all of their attention. "Ira, say what you want to before you explode." "What do you mean by night?" she says, bouncing on her feet. Jack smiles softly and pauses to think, putting his hand on his chin as he tries to remember. "I think you should just have a natural ability to form weapons and shields, whereas others can only make weapons. You can also choose what weapons to form as others can't. He has chains, she has some sort of staff?" He looks at Star confused. "But you didn't even know that, did you? I can't see it in your memory." Star looks at him a little uncomfortable. "Probably because I'd rather not summon weapons. Harmful fire is enough." He nods softly and smiles back at Winter, giggling at his tail as it wags behind him. "Maybe you're not a wolf, though, and just a big puppy." Winter's tail stops wagging as he glares at him. "You can read minds. You know you're wrong." "I don't know. I might have to see it to believe it." He glares at Winter, unable to hide the big smile on his face. "Fine," Winter says in a huff. "But on one condition." Jack nods eagerly. "You have to use your powers and figure out what pizza I want the most." I heard Star chuckle softly as she looked at me, motioning for the money. He narrows his gaze on Winter. "Me meat lovers, he said confidently. You can't choose which meaty pizza you like the most between barbecue or Hawaiian. This way you can have both. Winter smiles at him. I look over at Star and grab the money from my pocket as Star and I start counting it. Well, I've got to hand it to him. He was right, he says, smiling at us. Do we have enough for it? We continue to count the money, smiling at Star as she grabs out a $10 bill from her pocket. Yeah, we have enough for 4 small pizzas, so it doesn't matter the toppings, I say, smiling at them. Ira, what do you want? 4 cheese! It's the best! I nodded and looked at Star. Chicken and spinach. I'll order for us if you want. Barbecue and chicken for you, right? I smiled and nodded again. Thank you. She smiles at me and walks up to the counter, starting some conversation between the mother and the cashier. Come on, show me, show me! I chuckle softly as Jack jumps around Winter. Please, you've got to say please, Hunter says, walking over to Jack and slapping his shoulder gently. Ow, 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 okay, okay. Jack glares at Andra and moves out of the way for another light slap. Please! Jack and Andra both smile at Winter. Okay. Ira and I watch as Winter steps back, creating some space away from the others before he turns into his wolf form. Jack and Andra gasp as Winter sits down, still towering over them. Have I successfully proven you wrong? Winter says, smiling proudly. I don't know, Jack says as he smiles wide. Let me see your sharp teeth. Oh, like a dragon, let me see too. Andra jumps around eagerly. Please. Puppy dog eyes don't work on me, Winter says, sticking out his tongue at the kids. Yes, they do, Star says, turning around with a big smile towards Winter. He pauses as he glares at her. Only for you, he mutters before sighing and smiling again. Well, fine, I guess I can show you my teeth. Star giggles, rolling her eyes, and returns to the conversation. I smile at Ira, just feeling so calm, so at peace, so at home. Winter awkwardly bares his teeth for the kids, trying his hardest not to seem intimidating as they stare in awe. This is nice, I say as my smile softens with content. I agree. I would have never thought demons could be so wonderful. I'm proud to be one of you. Who knows? Maybe I'll help change the world with you guys. Ira smiles at me, her eyes lighting up, a glow of green coating her normally brown eyes. I snicker and shake my head, looking back at the group. I think you'll do amazing. I giggle as I watch Jack move to Winter's side, looking at his eyes and teeth. Andra was watching, a little too scared to get close again, but not seeming too scared to run. Oh my Lanta! I flinch as their mom screams. The moment she turned around, her eyes focused on Winter, the giant silver wolf towering over her kids with his teeth bared. Winter jumps up, quickly relaxing the muscles in his face as his ears go back. She seemed terrified as she stared at him, frozen in fear, one hand tightly gripping the collar of her shirt and a necklace underneath it that I had yet to notice, and her other hand gripping the side of the counter beside her. Ira chuckled softly, and Star gently put her hand on her shoulder, trying to calm her a little. Hey, it's okay. I'm still me. I can just transform into a wolf, Winter says, panicked and taking a few steps back, away from them to show no hint of hostility. She still stood there, frozen in fear, watching as Jack smiled again and ran up to Winter, running around him. See, Mom? Big friendly puppy! Winter groaned and smiled softly. We all stare at the mother as she slowly calms down, her hand coming down from the tight grasp on the collar of her shirt. I flinch as I notice a cross necklace in the fabric before it rests. I smiled, understanding that she moved it under her shirt when we came in. You can't change into anything smaller? She said hesitantly as she walked over to him, a little curious. I mean, I was stuck as a pup for quite some time, but I don't think I can change how big I am now, and I know I can't change into anything other than a wolf. Winter sat back down calmly as she approached. Her hand hesitantly came up, only making Winter snicker. I'm still completely me, not wild at all. Well, you do have some odd tendencies, Star mumbled, making the mother flinch, her hand drawing back slightly as she turned towards Star. Oh, don't worry. It's just small things like an intolerance to chocolate, better hearing and smelling. She pauses, trying to think. Oh. She looks back at Winter, her hand outstretched again. May I? He nodded softly and closed his eyes so he wouldn't seem threatening. She gently patched his head, admiring the softness of his fur, almost unbelieving as to how identical he was to a wolf. She moved her hand to the side, moving over his ear and flinching with a small smile as his leg twitches. Oh yeah, and that reflex, Star says, giggling as their mom scratches his ear, making his leg kick. She giggles softly before stopping. Star goes back to talking with the cashier, paying for the pizzas ahead of time. Jack settles after running around Winter, letting his mom have some space, settling next to me, sitting on one of the booth chairs. Eric goes over Star, talking with her and peering into the kitchen to watch the pizzas being made. And I just rest against the booth, smiling as Andrew ruffles up Winter's fur, the mother scolding him softly as she talks with Winter. "Emma." I flinch as Jack looks up at me, his voice surprisingly heavy. "Are you okay?" I looked at him confused. "The fight?" I flinched and waved my hand dismissively. Yeah, I'm fine." He stays silent beside me as he watches everyone. "What's that power like?" I say, looking at him. "How do you know things?"
"For me, it's like pictures, like little bits of memories on tiny TV screens. I can choose what to know, what not to know. I can look for certain things, but it's really hard."
He seems really happy as he talks.
"It's hard to turn off, though."
I glance at the pizzas being put into boxes, not recognizing it as any of ours. "You guys aren't sticking around?"
"Nah, Mom's bringing home dinner today. We're gonna watch scary movies."
I snicker as he jumps off the seat.
"And I'm gonna sleep all night with no nightmares."
"Sure you are, kiddo," I say, ruffling up his hair. "2 small pizzas," the cashier says, calling over the kids and their mom. She finished her conversation with Winter and walked over, grabbing the pizzas. "A pleasure seeing all of you again. I hope you all have a great day," she says, heading towards the door. The 2 kids waved goodbye enthusiastically with big smiles on their faces. Jack turned back into his human form as he approached the door, and all of us waved goodbye to them as well, even Winter as he changed back into his human form. I watched through the windows as they walked down the street. Andra ran ahead, heading for the crosswalk. I felt my heart skip a beat as he got closer, my wings reflexively spanning out. But he stopped just in front of it, glancing at me through the window and giving me a big thumbs up. "He remembered," I mumbled, smiling softly as he smiles back at Jack, waving him and his mother over, ushering them to speed up. Ira sat down on the seat beside me, calmly smiling towards the kitchen, and I shake my head as Winter and Star sit on the other side. "Oh, Emma, the first test next week are the math exam. Do you want to study for it?" Star said, looking at Winter for the books. He quickly grabbed his backpack and grabs out the textbooks. "I only have the social studies book. I mean, we can go over the few assignments in math that I have. I'm sure the answers are right," he mumbled, searching through a binder and between some books. "I'd prefer math. Social studies is boring," I mumbled, leaning on my hand. Ira had switched spots with me, so Winter and I were beside the window, going through the math homework he had to teach me, only stopping once our pizza came. It was going to take a lot more than 20 minutes of studying to catch me up to date. I didn't understand most of anything on that paper, but he seemed to be a good teacher, so I started understanding a bit. I sigh as I munch on my pizza, watching the busy downtown streets. The people ran to and from work over the hour we were there, and I noticed at least 2 familiar faces pass by the store we were in. Some random kids from school. I smiled. It was normal again. Peaceful again. I closed my eyes, my stomach getting full from the 3 slices I'd eaten. The sun was shining on my face. It made me feel so warm, so okay. I took a relaxing breath in and then out, listening to the chatter of my friends, resting my head back on my hands, and then just resting it on my arms as I folded them on the table. I was so comfortable, even with my wings pressed awkwardly against the booth chair. It all just felt so okay now.